Stand by for Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors with your host, Drew Kirby.
Yeehaw!
Okay.
Holy cow!
May I have your attention, please?
Hey, this is Luke Combs.
I am Morgan Wallen.
I'm Riley Green.
I'm Travis Denning.
Hey, I'm Aaron Lewis.
Hey, it's Luke Bryan.
I'm Tim McGraw.
What's up? This is Ian Munsick.
This is Craig Morgan.
And you're listening to
Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors. My Country 95.5. It's Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors on My Country 95.5. Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors on My Country 95.5.
All right, Janet, it's always nice to really mix up who we bring on this show. And this week, we've got a new player on the team.
We do, and that is something that we did talk about. We were hoping to do more of for our second year of the show, is to bring in some new players so that people can hear different voices and a different viewpoint. And that is who we have here today is Mr. Brandon Werner, who is our Casper District wildlife biologist. Welcome, Brandon.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. So as Janet was saying, I'm the Casper wildlife biologist. I'm pretty new in this position, just started in January. Been with the Game and Fish for 6 years, working in Jackson and Pinedale, DuBois, and all over the state.
You're not actually new to Game and Fish. You're just new to the area and kind of what you're doing. And your job really has some pretty cool parts to it.
Absolutely. I'm pretty fortunate. A main part of my job is to set hunting seasons for the next year and to see how herd health is with our animals. So that's what we're looking to do coming up here in this week.
So you're the guy.
That's exactly it. If there's any complaints, Brandon's phone number is 307. No, it's one of those deals, Drew, that we talk a lot about how we determine those seasons and the number of licenses that we issue. And this week is a prime week for gathering a lot of that data. And this is also a time of year where the Casper Regional Office gets a ton of questions from the public because people will hear the helicopter coming into our parking lot and landing and taking off and landing. And they do this oftentimes at very early morning hours, which always kind of makes some people a little bit upset. But also if you're out in the country, you might see a helicopter flying a little bit low, looking for some deer to classify. So I'll let Brandon kind of talk a little bit about what that means and what they do and where we go from there.
So having this helicopter in the air flying relatively low is for very important reasons. And those reasons are to get our buck to doe ratios and our fawn to doe ratios. And these ratios help us determine how the overall herd health is. If we have a high fawn to doe ratio, then we know that there was really good fawn production this year and that moving forward, we could potentially have more deer on the landscape, which the deer herds around Casper are struggling. They're about 50% of where we want them to be. So getting this information is really critical. Now, getting our buck to doe ratios is also really critical because it helps us set the hunting seasons for the next years. We have these thresholds that we set, and when we start getting under these thresholds, we get a little concerned that we don't have enough bucks on the landscape that we would want to have a good quality hunting experience and enough to have good herd health. If, for example, when we have more bucks per does than we really need on the landscape, we can also up our harvest, which allows sportsmen to get out into the field.
How does the helicopter help you determine what those ratios are?
The helicopter is a very, very important tool for us because it lets us get a top shelf seat where we're looking down and we're seeing these deer. So we're flying really low to the ground and we do kind of scatter the deer a little bit so we can see what our fawns are, what our does are, and then we can actually get close enough we can see what we call our class 1, 2, and 3 bucks. So the class 3 bucks are the bigger ones, and then the class 1 bucks are the lower ones. So this aerial view really helps us get a good look at these deer.
So why is this time of year so important?
Because the deer are rutting right now. It's breeding season for the deer. So the bucks are with the does right now, and they're the easiest to classify right now of any other time in the year.
But it is pretty critical for us to make sure that we have the most accurate science behind our data.
So now that the information's out there, everybody should know now that it's not to spy on hunters or to cause issues. It really is to help hunters for the next seasons.
That's exactly what it's for. And we try our very best to not interfere with any livestock on the landscape. We still have some elk seasons going on in the area, so we do our best to not interrupt any elk hunting that's going on or anything like that. However, while we're up in the air, if we do get an opportunity to classify a herd of elk while we're up there and save some money, we'll do that too.
Awesome. Brandon, Janet, hang tight. We want to hear more about aerial counting of the deer in the area from helicopters. It's coming up on Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors.
Wyoming to Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors. My Country 95.5.
Welcome back. Hey there, it's Drew, Janet, and Brandon with me today. Brandon, one of the biologists that goes up in a helicopter, you may have seen it, may have heard it, and helps make the count of the mule deer in the area. Now, this program really is important.
It really is. And one of the things that's happened, Drew, with technology is, in the olden days, it was these guys in a helicopter or a fixed wing airplane and a counter, and they would count everything that they saw at that time. And now with technology, we're getting a little bit better. We can actually film it. And so we do the video. So they do the counts while they're in the air, but they also have a video recording of what they've seen. And so we can go back and just verify everything. And so our data is just a lot more accurate than it used to be. And it is, I'm glad that you brought up all the conspiracy theories. It is very important to let people know that isn't something that we're trying to do. If the guys are in the air and they're looking around and they do see vehicles that might be still out hunting elk or anything along those lines, they do try to avoid those areas. But it is really important for the future. And like Brandon mentioned, our deer herds right now are struggling in some areas. And so we do want to make sure that we can do what we can to provide the best possible license issuance recommendations next year during our season setting meetings as possible.
As the eye in the sky, what's the experience like for you to get up and be able to float around and see all these deer in their element?
It's amazing. It truly is. Just the deer are out there, and getting to see from above them what habitats they're selecting, getting to see the bucks with the does, and right now during the breeding season, it is an absolute incredible thing, and I'm very fortunate to get to do this.
I've never been in the bird, so I don't get to relay what I have seen because I just throw up all over. So they won't let me anywhere near it. But it is one of those deals where the landscape that you are watching, and Brandon says the habitat that the mule deer are using is really always encouraging and enlightening. Oh goodness, we're seeing them in a stand of mountain mahoganies in the middle of winter. Maybe we need to do more habitat restoration in this area. And so there's a lot more that goes into it than just counting the deer. But it is so neat to hear everyone come back from these experiences because everyone is jazzed up. Everybody is super encouraged by what they've seen. Some of them, like me, are still stumbling around the parking lot, but it is really a neat experience and something that we're really glad that we have the opportunity to help us with our science.
When you're up that high, how do you actually make it count? I mean, are you going like 1 deer, 2 deer, 1 buck, 2 buck?
So we break it down. Typically, there's 2 game and fish employees and the pilot in the helicopter, and we kind of break it down. So we have one employee is going to count the fawns, and then the other employee is going to count how many bucks and the different antler classifications that we were talking about, the 1, 2s, and 3s. And then we add those together, and the pilot counts the overall deer numbers. And then whatever's in between gets our doe numbers because there's typically more does on the landscape than there are bucks and there are fawns. So we just use whatever the pilot counts for the total number of deer to add them together.
Wow. So it is really quite the equation that is put there.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Which is exactly why just the average Joe can't be, biologist for game and fish. You got to know what you're doing.
You have to have enough fingers to count all those deer. That's really the skill where it comes in. But it's neat to hear, what they see and how encouraged they are or discouraged they are by the numbers and the populations and
definitely go to wgfd.wyo.gov. You can find out more information about this program, find out about careers if you're into that. Brandon, it's nice that you finally got on and we were able to grab you for a quick minute.
Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Drew.
Hooking and Hunting Outdoors. My Country 95.5.
Well, Thanksgiving's behind us. That means Christmas is just weeks away.
I was thinking leftovers.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, if you have a good Thanksgiving, you've got leftovers for at least a week.
That's right.
I mean, and then that's one of the best parts about it. And you guys had a great 3-day sale here for Black Friday and the Black Friday weekend. And matter of fact, you guys have a lot of stuff going to kind of lead into the Christmas shopping season.
Yeah, it really just kind of kicks off the season, right? Now you're asking all your kids, oh, what do you want for Christmas? And starting to think about, okay, well, did we break a fishing pole over the summer? Maybe I need to replace a fishing pole, and try to find some way to surprise that sportsman in your life.
You know what I really like about Rocky Mountain Discount Sports is all of the camping gear. You guys have anything you need from mats to pillows and all the utensils you need.
Yeah, those little Coleman road trips, so you can like throw it in the back of your car and it comes up on its own little stand. You can be out there whether you're tailgating or picnicking or just a weekend camp trip. We really tried to expand on a lot of that stuff. I mean, people are getting out a little bit more, and God, there's so many good areas in the area to go camping, whether it's Casper Mountain or any of the lakes or ponds or BLM land, or why stay home?
Well, we always talk about if you don't have anything to do in Wyoming, you're not looking hard enough, right? There's
correct.
always something going, no matter the time. And ice fishing is, some areas are already getting some ice, and we're going to be rocking here and before you know it. So the ice fishing section is really full.
Yeah, and it's a great way to surprise people, because they might have maybe they had an old gas auger for all their life, and with all this battery operated stuff, some of the technology is just phenomenal. So now these guys can carry augers and not have to worry about mixing fuel and getting their hands stinky and getting on the minnows and the baits. And these 40-volt lithium batteries are doing well in 60 to 80 holes for an ice fishing trip.
So when you come here and you check out all the great items in Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, I think about the guys and gals that are looking forward to spring already and getting out on their boat, and maybe they need new electronics. I mean, that would be a great time to get something for that at Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit easier to find some of those electronic items during the off season, and obviously we have quite a bit of off season coming up. So, if you see that new graph and you just want to, get it so you can, heat up that garage and you pull the boat in and do some re-rigging and get things organized, it's a good time to do that.
One of my favorite things about the holidays is a mom and dad that buys their kid their first 22 or shotgun, and you guys have great selection of crickets here.
Oh boy, I don't even know how many different models we have, but or colors and shapes. I mean, there's so many different ones, and Savage makes that little rascal, and both are just great little 22s for first timers.
And obviously, you got 22 ammo to go right along with that, and that's something that you do have if you want to plink around. A lot of 22 ammo. It's
still the cheapest form of entertainment for the shooting world, anyways. And there's a lot of adults that are just kind of going into more of the precision, longer range stuff. And instead of shooting that tin can at 10 and 20 yards, they're trying to see if they can shoot 150, 200 yards.
It's a lot of fun to get out and do that, and maybe you're looking for that new rifle, whatever it is. Get out here and check it out. The sales will continue because it's always a sale here at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports.
Wyoming Hooking and Hunting Outdoors on My Country 95.5.
So, Brian, over the Thanksgiving trip, I took a trip back and spent some time with my dad, and when I was a kid, my grandpa, one of the first things he ever bought me was a BB gun. The next thing was a 22.
Right.
So I still have the 22 that I got when I was 9.
Right.
So I went out and I used it to do some rabbit hunting this past week.
That's kind of the progression, I mean, everybody has a 22.
Yeah.
Then you go to you might progress into like a shotgun, right? But 20 gauge or 410 or something, single shot. The break open ones we always had.
Yeah.
H&R partners.
This my 22. It's got the pull back one single shot. It's just a pop, and I missed quite a bit because it's 22 and the rabbit's moving and whatever. But
it's a lot less expensive for mom and dad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Somehow they put it all on me now.
Right.
I don't get that, but it was fun to get out and do that kind of hunting, and that small game is really something that probably gets looked over a little bit this time of year, especially with a lot of the larger games still in session.
Yeah, obviously rabbit season is pretty popular, but I think we have more people that are chasing, coyotes than anything else.
Right. And they, was it last weekend they had the coyote calling contest?
Yeah, the state championship last weekend. So, this cold weather gets those critters moving. And so whether you're out there, chasing them during the day, or, there's a lot of guys that are going to thermals and using thermals on those coyotes in the evenings. Kind of an interesting scenario.
It really puts an extra spin on it when you're going out with the thermal imaging.
Yeah, I've seen some videos of some guys doing some stuff, and it's just, it's pretty crazy when you're thinking that this is, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning type of stuff, and these coyotes are, you with those thermals, you can see them as clear as day.
And what kind of a shot will you have, like 5.56, something like that?
Yeah, a lot of guys are like in the semi-automatic, type, AR platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a popular way to go. There's a lot of bolt guys too, 223, 5.56. 204 is pretty popular around for that as well. I think there's people that shoot them with 17 WSMs, but 223 and 5.56 ammo is always a little bit easier to get a hold of.
When you're out, and I don't know how much coyote hunting that you do or have done, but it's interesting to me that it's just that little squeak that you make that can bring that coyote in for miles.
Yeah, so I hunted with an older gentleman that he's a heck of a coyote hunter, and I had some great opportunities with him, and it's not as easy as a person thinks, right? There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there's a lot of things that have to go right. And when you're running like lucky duck calls or primos calls, and there's different sounds, and there's some that have tails and some where it spins, and there's some guys that are using dogs as bait, basically, as decoys, not as bait. They're not eating the dogs, but that they run their dogs out there and they train them to do those things, and it's really kind of a unique and cool kind of experience. I don't think there's a bounty, and I don't think the furs are going for much this year, but it's still pretty cheap entertainment. And
right.
To see those coyotes, I remember the first time I was out, we'd come up over the top of this hill, and we set up the call. We got our seats set up, and we're sitting on the side of this hillside, and we turned the call on. Just like for the bare eye, you could just barely see this dot just screaming across this field. And then it dropped down into this ditch, and it ran the ditch row. And pretty soon it's like, boom, it's there 40 yards from you. It's like, holy cow, that was fast. So it gets your heart pumping, and it was cool. We had one opportunity where we had our call about 20 yards from us sitting on this big boulder and started calling, and we were watching this one from a direction, and all of a sudden there's 3 or 4 standing on the rock where the call is standing.
Oh my God.
Just like we were not prepared. Like my scope was dialed into like 5 or 6, and I could have shot them with open sights. It was that close.
Gosh.
So yeah, it's kind of exciting and kind of fun. And if you haven't done it, there's a ton of YouTube videos, and I'm sure somebody that has done it.
And goes. I've camped out. You camp out in the mountains, and you never know what you're gonna hear. And the cackle and the howl of a coyote or a pack of coyotes, man, that'll raise the hair on the back of your neck.
Yeah,
quick as nothing.
No, it's I don't know. Anytime you can get outside and experience, we talk about, the cabin up on the mountain, and we got a game camera up there, and, we had a mountain lion come through there again. And so, and this one looked a little bit bigger than the last one.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, it looked like it should have been on like a safari in Africa. The way it looked like it was that big. It was just big.
Yeah, and it was cool. I was surprised. That one picked up off the game camera at probably 60 or 70 feet or 80 feet, somewhere in that ballpark. And I was looking at that picture going, well, why is my game camera going off? And like, you kind of look in the trees and like, oh, that's why there's a big kitty.
Yeah. So obviously, even up on Casper Mountain, there's all kinds of things running down. The coyotes and bears and mountain lions.
Turkeys. And I mean, I was up there the other day, and I was cleaning out one of my sheds, and I was in there for a little while, and I jump out of the shed, and there's 2 turkeys like 5 feet from me, just
Jeez.
I'm like, I got to be a little more careful about jumping in and out of this shed.
Yeah. Although if you need your Christmas turkey, you've got that taken care of, right?
Well, no, it didn't happen that way.
Oh, all right. Well, get out and then enjoy it. And obviously, if you need calls or stuff like that, you guys carry coyote calls.
Yeah, we got a good selection of Primos and Lucky Duck, and just hand squeakers and howlers and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Wyoming